That's 1050 AM and 106.5 FM, KCAA Loma Linda.
Guys are, whether you're driving at home or watching us live or, driving to work, whatever way, I hope we're here to entertain you guys for the next hour or so. Last week we did talk about having a band here and, interviewing them and seeing how everything's going. However, due to life expectancies, sicknesses and all that good stuff, we're going to have to reschedule. But tonight we have another special, interesting guest. I actually met him, how long ago? It was like a couple weeks ago, right?
I think so, just a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, about a month or so like that, at the Native Sons. And we had a nice, good dinner. I think that was at the San Bernardino Elks Lodge.
It was San Bernardino Elks Lodge, yes.
And if you guys don't know what the Native Sons of the Golden West is, would you care to explain?
Let's see. It's a fraternal organization of folks who I believe 100 years, 150 years back have ancestry in the state of California.
Yeah.
Correct? Because I've been invited to join that and Rotary. I'm not too particularly sure on that number. Does that sound about right? 100,
Yeah, it
150?
sounds about right.
Perfect, yeah.
And yeah, so basically it's people who are born and raised in California. They come together and we don't lose our culture. We don't lose our ancestors or anything like that. So it's a good community. And I met him there. We didn't actually officially meet until tonight. So Christian, it's nice to meet you.
Yes, pleasure. Pleasure officially, brother.
Yes. And we're going to have a good interview. Explain why you're here and what you're doing.
All right, so first off, I just want to say good evening to all the wonderful listeners tonight. So like I said before, my name is Christian Thomas Shaughnessy. I'm running for a community college board, the San Bernardino Community College District, Area 4. So that includes southern San Bernardino, Loma Linda, Redlands, parts of southeastern Colton. And something I really believe in is ensuring that we have mentoring programs for young people and for folks who are formerly incarcerated, who want to go ahead and get on the right path of life, stay away from violence, stay away from the gang life. And then that's something that's really personal to me because I actually lost a friend to gun violence. It was just a couple blocks away from the house I grew up in San Bernardino. And after Nadesh died, it made me realize just how short life was and how we had to go ahead and change power in this region, how we had to go ahead and reduce that violence, improve the quality of life, and also ensure that people get the good jobs they need to fight against inflation. So that would be through paid apprenticeships that we'd have over in the community college district, vocational training, to ensure that our working families across the region get the love and respect they deserve, and also ensure that our graduation rates are high. Because when you have money that's invested in education instead of bureaucracy and administration, what that'll do is it will improve not just graduation rates, but also life outcomes for people. So violence goes down, the economy goes up. It's a very good circle, and it's something you can do over in the community college district. A lot of people they'll underestimate the impact of it, but we have a budget that's nearly $400 million. We have $600 million economic impact on the region, and there's so much we can do. There's so much we can do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what is your job? Like, what would you like to do? What would you like to change?
Absolutely. So there are over 40 different community colleges in the California community college system that have mentoring programs for the formerly incarcerated. Over 40. San Bernardino Valley College does not have that. Crafton Hills does not have that. They're the two campuses we have in the district. I think we need to change that yesterday. Okay,
Yeah.
If you go see how violent crime is increasing, you go see how despair is increasing, we need to go and change that. And then if you go talk to a lot of, young folks especially, folks are feeling pretty lonely nowadays. It's something we're, just talking about a little bit, on the outside in terms of, who has that energy to be a go-getter, who has that energy to go and take that extra step in life. And I'm somebody that's really benefited from mentoring programs, okay, because like I said before, I grew up in San Bernardino. September 16th, it was my 5th year of recovery from drug and alcohol use, and I frankly would not be here today if it hadn't been for the people who believed in me when nobody else did. And it's very important that we give that to students, and we just give that to human beings in general at all levels of government.
Have you gone to community college, or did you go to universities, or what's your education system like?
Very good question. So I'm actually a graduate of San Bernardino Valley College. I was there from 2014 and 2016. I was a co-chair of METRA out there, the Chicano Student Movement of Aslan.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly. Yeah. Met a lot of wonderful people out there, including those mentors I was talking about earlier. I was out there in student government as well. I was a ICC rep. And one of the things that Valley College taught me is that if you want to save money, if you want to still get a good education, you can go to a community college.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you don't have to go straight to the 4-year. You don't have to go ahead and incur the cost of all that money.
I feel like a lot of kids are pressured to go to those Ivy League schools first, or to go to that huge university, private university,
yes.
30, 40, 50K like a year type schools. So I feel like it's very beneficial to educate people on community college, and that there's equal opportunities there than there are at universities. So
Absolutely.
definitely,
Yeah. And then there are actually a lot of students who say that the teaching quality is better at a community college instead of a 4-year, because at a lot of these research institutions, sometimes you'll have professors, educators, they're like, I don't want to go in and teach today. Today I want to do research. So you actually,
Yeah.
no, I mean, honestly, you have
Yeah,
a whole lot of
honestly,
students
yeah.
that they want that full-time attention from a certain kind of a
Yeah.
person. And yeah, it's something people underestimate, which is a shame, because San Bernardino Valley College and Crafton Hills have so much to offer to the community and continue to offer to the community.
And not only that, community colleges, they're smaller than universities, so to speak, as far as like the classroom size and all that. And which is good for the kids, because if you have a class of, let's say, like 300, and if you have a question or you have any concerns or anything like that.
yeah, it's more of an intimate setting.
Yeah, when you have a smaller class, you can teach each and an individual, and you can be more intimate with the person, have a stronger relationship with your professor, or, you don't have to be scared or nervous walking into that humongous classroom,
Oh, yes.
And so with me personally, like I went to Crafton.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, for about like a year and a half, almost 2. One of the reasons why I stopped going is because I didn't want to take classes or pay for something that I didn't know what I was going for.
Yeah.
Like when I was 16, some medical issues kind of like twisted my life up a little bit, and I was like, oh man, but I'm still gonna go to college, because like after high school, like I didn't want to just sit at home.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, we'll go to Crafton. It's nearby, it's local, and then we'll just start taking classes, see what I like and feel comfortable with. Then I started to realize my own passion, my own path didn't need the college, right?
Yeah.
And so, but when I was in those classes, it was kind of like, being in high school again. You got like the class of 30 or 50, and the teacher would come around and ask you, hey, do you have any questions, or like, how can I help you? Rather than if you're at a university, and guarantee you the professor doesn't even know half your guys' names.
Trust. I'm a personal victim to that. I was one of those kids that was pressured to go to university.
Yeah.
I went to a university. I got burnt out. I didn't finish my degree, and now I owe $70K on a degree I don't have. And I felt like I was just a number. I felt like if I really wanted help, I had to jump through hoops. And so, it's really nice to see that people are out here making a change for that.
So what are some positive things in your campaign that you are enlightening the people with?
All right, absolutely. So that's another great question. One of the things we're very proud about is that we've received the endorsement of the teachers and school employees unions in the district, because right now we have an administration that doesn't really respect the student body, that doesn't really respect the workforce either, unfortunately. And that's something I feel a certain kind of way about, because I'm an essential worker myself, because I'm a youth community organizer and mentor. And I remember, I even qualified to get the jab around the same time, well, at the exact same time as many school teachers and tutors, as a result. And what they told us, essential workers, so many administrators, bosses in this world, was, you folks are heroes. We love you so much. Thank you for risking your lives and all that. And they gave us pizza parties and Kraft mac and cheese on Juneteenth. That's a real thing, by the way. Look that up. At Target, there was a Target, I think, in the Midwest. They gave Kraft mac and cheese on Juneteenth. Very good cultural competency. But anyway, so they did that. And in the very last negotiating round, with inflation this bad, some economic estimates, something like 8, 10, 12%, depending on the estimate you look at, what administration offered our brothers and sisters in the district workforce was a 1% increase. 1%. So 2.5 years of, we all think you're so wonderful, and they offered 1. I feel a certain kind of way about that.
Yeah.
That's disrespectful.
That's got to be
right
higher.
there. Yeah, it's got to be more than that.
So what do you think? What are your numbers?
The California state budget allocated nearly 7% of that. That's another thing that makes it really, really heinous, because it was supposed to be up there, okay? But then what happened is that the unions had to negotiate it high. They had to go out of their way
Yeah.
Okay, and then for our support staff, people who do janitorial, office work,
Right.
they ended up only getting around 5%
Yeah.
instead.
That's rough.
Yeah. And it's something we need to change because you also have the remote work policy. It's gone away essentially for the fall semester, and there are lots of folks, lots of working people who are able to prove that they're just as productive working at home, somewhat working at home, as they
Yeah.
were over in the office, and they had a great time seeing their children grow up and taking care of their elders in these
Right,
multi-generational households.
Mm-hmm.
And now that's being taken away by folks who just, I mean, they're just a bit stubborn. I mean, they believe in these old-fashioned ways. They're not necessarily bad people, but people need to get with the times, so to
Right.
speak.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you agree with people working at home and like out?
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Is that what you do now? Do you work at home, or I know for you campaigning, you actually go out there, out on the field, bootstrapped.
It's having 2 jobs. Yeah.
Right. And how is your campaign going? Like, what do you do in order to promote yourself and what you believe in?
Yeah, so first off, as a youth community organizer, it is a bit split. So we have Friday off as a remote, not off, but as a remote work day at minimum. Sometimes we get other days. I work for Reach Out West End. We're a community-based organization that works across the Inland Empire doing, so many services for our youth and their families. And then prior to that, I was a youth community organizer with Sigma Beta Xi Youth and Family Services. So folks are familiar with Corey Jackson. He's actually running for assembly down south out of the Moreno Valley area. He's our CEO. And then that was about split at home and then split in the field. Yeah, talking to young people, having those group counseling sessions. So it's something that I've seen work firsthand. And
Yeah.
if somebody goes ahead and shows how productive they are and that it's useful, you shouldn't just stick to those old-fashioned ways.
Right.
But then going back to the other question that you had, brother, we're out there, we're knocking on doors, we're taking no votes for granted. We're talking to our API populations, Asian American Pacific Islanders. We're talking to black voters who are especially taken for granted over in this area we're running in. And we're talking to labor folks, working families, and we're really getting the vote on up. And ballots are being sent out this week. I actually got my ballot. First off, I kind of don't know how that happened. The post office is weird, I guess. But yeah, I somehow got my ballot earlier than 99% of people, I guess. But
you are running, so it's like,
Exactly.
hey, this is yours.
yeah,
Type of deal.
exactly. It's like you get the first one.
Right.
Yeah.
So when it comes to, people working at home, what about people or students going to college or
Yes,
learning at home?
absolutely.
What are your thoughts on that?
It's been very hard on folks. Been very hard for students and educators having to juggle those dynamics, especially when the pandemic was very bad. And I'm a former educator myself. I was an English teacher assistant for a year out in Italy, and I know how hard it can be to teach folks, in person with these young kids. And so my heart really goes out to educators who have to go in and juggle things not just in person but also digitally. And I think that over at the community college level that you still need to have those things offered. Okay, if somebody is willing to go do that digital coursework, if somebody's willing to provide the class digitally, then they ought to receive all the support they can possibly get.
Right.
And right now we have these adjunct professors. They unfortunately are not getting that respect. They're unfortunately not getting those equitable benefits they deserve. And I encourage people to make friends with some of these adjuncts. A lot of them have to work 3 to 4 jobs. Not 3 to 4 jobs. They have to go to 3 to 4 different campuses just to make ends meet. And so it's something that contributes to the labor shortage that's out there in the general economy.
Yeah.
Because you have a whole lot of people, and then they're asking themselves, do I want to keep on doing this? Because I'm not getting mileage reimbursement. Gas prices are over $6 apparently again, and I'm driving these 3-4 different campuses, and then it can make things very, very difficult for folks. So we need to ensure that we have a very high quality labor force, that our workers are respected, and that we can go and keep people in the field, period. It's a problem over in K through 12 and above in the community college system too.
What are your thoughts on that, Kyle?
Ooh.
Okay, so I think especially it affects kids coming into the workforce as well, because you have like a lot of kids that are saying, "Hey, I want to be a teacher," but then they also want to buy a house, and now it's not like, well, can I buy a teacher with the salary? Can I buy, am I making enough for, as a college professor? can I do this? And it's kind of making people question going into the workforce. And I've seen working with my dad. My dad was in trade his
Oh,
whole
there you go.
life. And so growing up in the 80s, 90s, the same thing happened where a lot of people were not going into trade because it was not making enough. The labor force wasn't reliable. He didn't really trust any of the support that was coming from what's the word? Like basically the labor force wasn't really
I see.
Supporting him.
supporting him, and so
Sorry to hear that.
he ended up working 2 or 3 jobs. He wasn't really present for my older siblings. He's
so
had
sorry.
yeah. But and just seeing that happen to teachers now, I have friends who are teachers. I have a lot of really good friends that are trying to make it as professors. Seeing them go through the same thing it's not right. It shouldn't be that way. And so just watching them, there's got to be a change somewhere where these teachers have to be respected more.
Absolutely.
I've seen like a lot of teachers, especially friends, get treated horrible too, on top of being paid poor. So
Right.
it's just not needed. Like we need to make a change. We need more kids to believe in the system, whether going into trade or going to college. People really shouldn't be forced to go one way, like the university route.
Exactly.
This country was founded on, hey, you could do this, or that. Whatever you want to do, just choose your route. But I feel like, especially growing up, like Yucaipa High School, was really pushing people towards universities.
Yeah.
Right.
And so, Mount Sac was really pushing people towards universities. I have friends that went to Pacific High School, universities. And so this is all the same district here, and I always thought it was just our school, but no, I got friends that go to, San Gregorio, Pacific,
Exactly.
that are all experiencing the same thing. So I think it's really beneficial that people should be educated in that aspect to be going for different options,
Right.
wherever you want to go.
And like what Christian said earlier, like a lot of people are stuck in the old ways.
Yeah.
And what one of the old ways was, like, the thought process was go to college.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. And now it's a stigma. Like, if you don't go to college, then what are you? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like they'll look down on you.
Yes. But something that I was really not like, maybe proud is not the word, but like something excited that got to me is my senior year in my English class. We did a whole semester of pros and cons, but mostly cons of college, right? Because my teacher was like, look, I'm not trying to convince you to go to college, but I'm not trying to convince you not to go to college. But there are options. Like, here's what you can do. And we literally did comparables of, the degrees and like the occupations of like what they make per year, like their salary,
exactly,
compared to the trade work. Exactly. And I was listening to this guy the other day, and everyone wants to be a nurse now, right? And so you go into these universities, you go for 8 years, and let's say you're just throwing numbers, like $200,000 in debt,
Right. Yeah.
right?
Yep.
And then you want to buy a house.
Nope.
So that's an
Good
extra.
luck.
That's an extra $300,000-$400,000, and then you want to buy a car,
Good luck.
right? So you're literally in debt for the rest of your life.
And then you miss a couple payments for that college, and now you can't buy the house.
Yeah.
And then what?
And then your
It's
credit's
all
bad.
downhill
Yeah.
from there. And so I think it's important. Honestly, even if you go to college, there should be college courses that teach you other paths, other directions, right?
Yeah.
And not even just towards career, but just towards life and society itself. Because we're talking about, working at home, which I guess it's okay, it's fine. But honestly, as a student, as a human being growing and experiencing life, me personally, I don't think we should be behind the computers in school.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because then there's that psychological, introverted, always on computer. Like, there's so much more than just the physical aspect.
I got thought about that. In the 80s, Sweden started doing school outside. They built schools outside in Sweden in the middle of like a forest, a classroom.
Mm.
And it brought up graduation rates so high that they kept it. And still to this day, they have schools where it's open. Like, you're in the middle of a field. Like, imagine being in, like, by the swing, like, doing, like, like, doing school, like, in the middle of a forest. Like, just fresh air. You know, you're not being confined.
You're getting some sun. And that's that's another important thing. Like, again, it's not just about, like, the physical touch or, you know, just the atmosphere itself. But, like, being with nature, getting your vitamin D, that connection. Like, we are social creatures. So why are we distancing ourselves from each other? And the worst thing to do is to be by yourself.
Right.
Because that's when people start going crazy. Like, even in the prison system, like, they put you in the hole. And if you guys don't know what the hole is, or the shoe, or in the back, it's literally they put you by yourself for weeks on end.
Yeah.
And they did a study where I think it was like after 2 weeks, like, people started creating like
their worlds
in their own heads. Like, they'll see like cockroaches or like bugs that weren't even there, because like your mind needs interaction, your mind needs other things around you. And if you're at home by yourself, I understand if you have kids or like people to take care of, but as students, as human beings growing up in life and developing, you need those skills. You need that contact. You need the emotions. You need the frustration. You need the stress, because stress is not a bad thing, right? Being comfortable, like we talked about last week, being comfortable is bad. But being in a stress environment, that helps you grow, regardless if you know it or not. And I'm not saying college or school is stressful, but it definitely tests yourself, you know?
Right.
Because you have friends, you have mentors, and it's all growth. You know, going to school is a good thing.
Yeah.
But the way they portray it, in a sense of like, hey, you need this in order to be somebody, to be something, that's where they're wrong, you know? So go ahead, Christian. Continue.
Oh, no, it's all right. No, that was very beautiful. It's a testament to the human need that we all have for connection, for being part of, I mean, not just something greater than yourself, but being part of something, you know?
Right.
Because I remember very, very on deep in the pandemic, even though I was, I mean, with other people digitally, it's just not the same.
No.
It's just not the same. And it's very interesting you put out that anecdote about what they're doing in Sweden, given the opportunity, because that's another thing we need in general. I mean, it's a bit above community college board level, but I mean, green spaces. I mean, green spaces that human beings out in the inner city and in working class neighborhood, just any neighborhood.
Yeah.
Because if you immerse yourself in that environment, studies have shown that it'll increase your mood, it'll improve your mental health, because you're actually a part of nature. Because that's what we are. We're from nature, and we are a part of nature.
Yeah. There was a couple classes I took where we actually didn't do class at the university.
Nice.
One of them we did it at the top of Mount Baldy.
Ooh.
So we all took
Field trip.
Yeah, and it was like a class of like 6-7 students with the professor. So he all took us in this SUV to Mount Baldy. We all had computers and backup batteries, and we were all just doing discussion groups at a table. And the homework was done actually during class, and then we studied at home or wherever. And then for my astronomy class, obviously you have to be outside for that. So we did a couple at Mount Baldy, and then we went to Griffith Observatory a lot.
I love that place.
Yeah. It's one of my favorite places. Yeah. And so I have a minor in astrophysics.
Oh.
That's 23 units from being completed. And then I have about 37 units away from computer information systems.
Nice.
But I've seen it firsthand work way better. Just those two classes, I've had higher grades, and I've had to study less. So I'm studying less and I'm getting higher grades. That doesn't really fit the criteria. And so,
Oh Lord.
That's too funny. Hey, Christian, sorry to cut you off, Kyle. You were talking about improving the percentage rate of graduates.
Yes, graduation rates. Yeah.
How do you go about that?
Well, first off, if you go take a look at our brown and black youth in particular, we have to think about improving graduation rates and even attendance rates in general as something more than just, oh, here's a sports scholarship, here's an invitation to play football or something. Yeah. Instead, you have to have these culturally competent intervention services and prevention services that go and take a look at you and the unique home life you have or work life you have, and then go and work from there. So it's something that a lot of nonprofits do. And it's actually something, the nonprofit I currently work for does. You go ahead and you will, no kidding, interview the young people, or you will interview their family, and then you go take a look at somebody's unique needs. Because somebody can come onto this radio and show and say, oh, there's a one-size-fits-all situation. No, there isn't. No. We're all unique. We all have our unique problems. And you go and take a look at, what is your financial life like? Okay. Yeah. What is your social life or lack thereof, like we were just talking about? What is your spiritual life, if you were so inclined, or if you're not religious, what is your philosophical life like?
Right.
What are you striving to? Do you actually want to do the 4-year degree, or is this something that some counselor's been shoving in your head, right?
Yeah.
So you go and work from there, and then it actually makes people want to attend, what they want to attend in the first place.
Right.
Because
then they'll feel forced, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Because kind of like in your situation,
Yeah.
you felt forced, and then in the end, you got all that debt, you didn't even complete it.
Yeah.
And that's something that a lot of people do not talk about enough over in the public policy sphere.
Yeah. My parents. My mom is a first generation Latina. Both my grandparents were born in Mexico.
Oh.
So education was number one. God was number one. And so I was forced to go to church growing up. I'm pretty religious, but I have some friends that had parents that didn't really want to go that route, so they became atheists because it was kind of forced. And that's kind of happening in the school sense. Do I want to go to college? You have to. Now I don't want to. You know what I mean?
Right.
I see. Yeah.
And so I feel like, it's really beneficial to learn about these different choices. And just to kind of, on an individual level, what do I need? What do I want to do? Mm-hmm. And so I feel like it's forcing a lot of people to stay locally too. I know a lot of people. I grew up with a lot of people that didn't take the opportunities I did to travel outside. Like you said, you went to Italy.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people that feel like that they were forced to stay here and take care of their parents, or check on grandma.
Yeah.
Or stuff like that. And so I think it's really cool what you guys are doing.
Yeah.
Thank you.
On the plus side of things, talking about forcing our students to learn certain criterias or certain things like that, it is beneficial in a sense of kids. They need a guide, right? They don't really know what they want. So forcing them, quote unquote, to learn social studies or to learn science or to math, that's literally just expanding their likings and making them curious, because maybe they do like math, but you would never know until they tried it.
Yeah.
Right. Or maybe
Exactly.
science, because I know a lot. Yeah, I know a lot of students are like, why do we have to learn this stuff? Blah 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 blah. Well, hey, actually, we have a caller coming in right now. Let's plug him in before we go on break.
Ooh.
Hello, you are live on KCAA on Whatever Works. Hello? Interesting. Okay. Well, hey, if you call back, we can plug you back in. We actually are going to be going on break right now, so hopefully when we come back on break, you can call in, and then we can have a little chit-chat. You guys are listening to Whatever Works on KCAA. I'm Sam Works.
I'm Kyle Kerrigan.
Christian Shaughnessy.
And we'll be right back after this.
If you plan to run for any public office, or if you're an elected official with a tough campaign ahead, you definitely need a radio show on KCAA to build your brand and attract voters. Think about it. You can broadcast and podcast a weekly show on KCAA for $150 a week for an entire year, production included, and spend less than the cost of a fancy mailbox stuffer that voters throw in the trash. Your 1-hour radio program will be carried on 1050 AM and 106.5 FM. So if you plan to run for any public office, call us at 281-599-9800, and our CEO will personally help you. Get started today on KCAA, the stations that leave no listeners behind. Call 281-599-9800 for details.
We've all heard jokes that begin with a rabbi, a priest, and a minister walk into a bar. Well, a rabbi, a minister, and a deacon actually walk into the KCAA studios every Sunday morning at 7 a.m. to host the radio program Religion on the Line. And that's no joke. Together, they offer a mixture of humor and serious conversation about things that really matter in life and how to make our lives happier and more fulfilling. They compare religious doctrine and learn from each other while bringing a unique perspective of religion to the KCAA audience. Listen every Sunday morning from 7 to 8 a.m. for Religion on the Line, the intersection of humanity and divinity, right here on KCAA Radio, the station that leaves no listeners behind.
Bob Vila here with my home improvement tip of the day. You probably know that ice dams are the ridges of ice that form along the edges of roofs during cold weather. They occur when heated air in your home rises and gets up into the attic. The warm air heats the underside of the roof. That causes snow on top to melt and drain down the roof until it reaches the cold overhang. There, it refreezes, forming an ice dam. Water from melted snow backs up behind the ice dam and can leak into the house and cause major damage. The best way to avoid ice dams is to use insulation to seal the attic from rising warm air. If you get an ice dam anyway, you'll probably need to consult an energy-savvy contractor, but in the meantime, there's a fix that might get you through the crisis. Find a pair of old nylons and fill one of the legs with ice-melting crystals. Drape the nylons up on the roof so that one end crosses the ice dam and the gutter. The chemicals will eventually melt that section of the ice, creating a gap for water to escape. Get more info at bobvila.com and right here at home with me, Bob Vila.
Hi, I'm food critic Alan Borgen, and I'm excited to tell you about Ray's Shanghai Bistro, located next to Redlands DMV on Lagonia in Redlands. Ray's Shanghai Bistro offers the largest and most delicious array of traditional and original Chinese dishes available in the Inland Empire. Some of my favorite dishes are the house-made pot stickers, the crisp pork spare ribs with garlic, their unique spicy lamb with bamboo, the sweet and tangy deep-fried orange peel beef, and the savory basil spicy shrimp, plus lots of vegetarian dishes. Whether you dine in, pick up the food, or have them cater your next party or special occasions, you will see why Ray's, spelled R-U-I-S, Shanghai Bistro, is truly the best Chinese restaurant in the Inland Empire. Their website is raysshanghaibistro.net. That's raysshanghaibistro.net. R-U-I-S, shanghaibistro.net. Happy eating. You won't be disappointed.
If you plan to run for any public office, or if you're an elected official with a tough campaign ahead, you definitely need a radio show on KCAA to build your brand and attract voters. Think about it. You can broadcast and podcast a weekly show on KCAA for $150 a week for an entire year, production included, and spend less than the cost of a fancy mailbox stuffer that voters throw in the trash. Your 1-hour radio program will be carried on 1050 AM and 106.5 FM. So if you plan to run for any public office, call us at 281-599-9800, and our CEO will personally help you. Get started today on KCAA, the stations that leave no listeners behind. Call 281-599-9800 for details.
Shaughnessy.
Now, Christian Shaughnessy is our guest for this evening. If you guys are just tuning in, give us a little background on why you're here.
Absolutely. So I'm running for the San Bernardino Community College District, Area 4. that is out in Loma Linda, Redlands, South San Bernardino, southeastern Colton. And we're running on a platform. This wonderful campaign is running on a platform of ensuring we get good mentoring for our young people, to make sure they graduate, get on that good path to life, stay away from violence. We're running on ensuring that there could be paid apprenticeship models for the trades for our young people. If they want to get any student debt, they just want to go straight into the workforce. And we also want to make sure that our employees are respected and given the compensation they deserve, so we have a high-quality workforce, while ensuring we protect our taxpayers at the same time. So we're not just hiring administrators on top of administrators, but investing in our students of all ages and our employees.
There you go. And so if you guys didn't hear the first half of our show, you guys can always go back on KCAAradio.com and listen back, or on Spotify.
We have our link on KCAAwhateverworks.com.
Yeah. And go on our social media as well. KCAA Whatever Works on Instagram.
And we also have a Facebook. You can get both those links on our website.
Yeah. And the website is one more time?
KCAAwhateverworks.com.
There you go. And let's give a shout out to our sponsors, since we didn't get to do that in the first half.
Our first sponsor is snjradio.com. No negative news, no politics, just feel good music. And our man Secondhand Sam up at Second Chance Thrift Store next to USA Subs on Yucaipa Boulevard.
Yes, go check them out, guys. We are all here to help out the community, help each other out, because that's what we're made to do, right?
Yeah.
And Christian here is one of those people here to help the community, the individual, the people, and we're going to talk a little more about it. So, first of all, you're running this campaign. How can people be connected with the campaign for you?
Absolutely. So there's a variety of volunteering folks can do, and you can go ahead and really check that out specifically by going on our website, Christian4, SBCCDarea4.com. But to give folks a little rundown right here tonight. So you can go ahead and do something like knocking on doors, leaving literature behind, talking to voters that way. You could even do some phone banking. You could even do some text banking. So let's say you're one of these ultra introverts we were talking about before on the show. Then it could be something as simple as that. You could be doing that peer-to-peer mentoring. You could be doing that phone banking. And then you could also do postcard writing. That's something we're really big on, and that the Teacher Association will be doing a lot of in the upcoming weeks. So depending on your level of comfort, whatever it is you want to do, you can hop on down to support this campaign. Of course, if you're so financially inclined, you can give a donation over on our website as well. We're really pushing and getting these donations out because it's the last month. And when we go and get that money, we really want to ensure that our youth interns, which we have a lot of, thank God, our youth interns get a subsidy over at the end because, you know, as the official labor candidate in this race, courtesy of the labor counts, I really believe that there's a phenomenon of youth interns just essentially being exploited over in our society. They get zero, you know, hopefully I don't touch any nerves here if that's the case, but, you know, like they get nothing at all. But I think they should get something. And and folks will be able to see on our financial paperwork ad for the campaign that we did that. So that's one of the things we're really pushing for right now because we've been spending money, but we want to ensure that happens too.
Yeah.
And you are available to talk to anyone about any questions, comments, or concerns, right? How do they reach out to you?
Absolutely. So one of the things we're very proud of in this campaign is that we actually have a campaign phone number. Folks can call, folks can text. If you want to go and have a meeting with me, lunch, dinner, please don't make it too expensive on my part. But I'll go ahead.
It's on him, you guys. You heard that.
It's on me, right? Bring the family. Yeah. I'll bribe you with delicious Corkies, which this brother worked at before. So. But, yeah, I mean, we can come on down and you can call this number, 909-297-8867. You can also text it, and we have a meeting or just talk over the phone about policy, which is something I've noticed a lot of voters enjoy. They like doing that.
We had a caller just before break. If you want to call back at 888-909-1050, you can go ahead and ask Christian here a question.
Yeah. So what are some of the policies that you and your team are trying to work on?
Absolutely. So earlier on, we were talking about a lot of emotionally charged topics, but you also have things that some folks would consider rather mundane, but are rather chronic problems that still haven't been unfortunately addressed. And one of those things is the parking situation
Yes.
on both campuses. So I'm a graduate of San Bernardino Valley College. If you've ever been there, that place needs a parking structure like a fish needs water, like a mammal needs oxygen, like a baby needs like really, really unhealthy candy. You know, like that's what like a small kid at a candy store. But if you go and take a look at that situation, it's really a testament to how, again, I'm not saying that administration is full of bad people or something, but there's just been this negligence when it comes to, like very common sense things that the students and frankly the faculty require as well. And so some time back over in the district, you had money that was originally allocated to building more parking, to expanding the campus that way. But instead it got put into a gym. Now, my blessed brothers and sisters, children of God here tonight, what is the problem with building a gym if the parking situation is still bad? That kind of defeats the purpose of going to the gym because you need to park somewhere to go to this gym.
Right.
Yeah.
And that right there is actually a testament to how, well, there's some good ideas out there because, hey, I mean, it's a pretty nice gym. I've been around it before. I probably should go to the gym more. Our listeners in on
been
the
a
radio
while.
can't see it, but yeah, the pandemic's been heavy, man. Yeah, but
Kyle,
go ahead, brother.
Kyle, explain your experience with the whole parking as we talked about earlier when we were on break.
Yeah, so before, I've talked about this before. I went to Azusa Pacific University, really, really cool university. But the issue is if you want to park there, there's two campuses. There's an East Campus and a West Campus. The East Campus is a huge. It used to be an old drive-in theater, plenty of parking. But the West Campus, there's probably only 300 spaces, and so that's where most of the classes are on the West Campus. And so you got to take a trolley, typically from east to west. But for people who are in a time crunch, can't really do that, and so they have to get parking on the West Campus. And when I was going, they were charging, I think, $230. This is a semester, not a year. So $230 a semester to park on campus. And, you have the West Campus that only had 300-400 spaces of parking. So you had to show up an hour to 45 minutes before your class, drive around, just hopefully there's one spot in the boonies that you can park. No, so you got to drive all the way to the other campus, which is 0.5 miles away. Park there, wait 15 minutes for a trolley, and then take the trolley to the West Campus. And so, yeah, that was a shared frustration to all my brothers, especially in the fraternity that I was in.
And finding parking shouldn't even be a problem when it comes to
Especially if you pay
education.
for it.
Yeah.
Especially if you pay for it. And me personally, when I was at Crafton, again, Kyle was talking about doing loops, doing circles, and then you do a full circle, and then you see a spot open, but then someone pulls in, they take that spot, and it's like, bro, I've been doing this for 20 minutes. I don't want to walk half a mile. I've already been in my car, I'm running late to class, and the teachers, they understand. They acknowledge it, oh, you can't find parking. Yeah, okay, well, have a seat, And that's another issue that shouldn't even be an issue in school or in anything. So that's something that not a lot of people speak of.
Yeah.
But I'm glad we talked about it tonight because it is something that everyone goes through.
Speaking of Crafton Hills, when I was going to college, they actually built another parking structure, a mile down the road. You remember that? It was by YHS or by Sand Canyon Road, going up towards Mentone. It was parking structure F. That's
all the way
outside of the college.
and you have to walk uphill, right? So it's
my God, I thought that was a slap to the face.
Cardio.
yeah, exactly.
And you got to walk up the huge incline hill just to get to the front of the university or college.
I mean, the education is
man.
great. The teachers are great. We are just, bagging on the whole parking structure.
Yeah, parking sucks.
Yeah. So, so what are some other things that teacher, faculties and students struggle in terms of the college campus?
Absolutely. So Another thing that has been a pretty big issue is the issue of curriculum. So there's been some debate over ethnic studies curriculum, labor classes, women's studies, and especially after the politics the last couple of years. I think it's very important that, of course, in collaboration with the faculty, in collaboration with the students and the public, that we have some honest curriculum that teaches the true history of this country, that actually lets people know about the context of where we live. Because
Yeah.
when you do that, it goes back to what we were talking about before, which is you center yourself over in your community, you experience that connection, and you know the truth about what our ancestors are doing. So I mean, this gentleman, he talked about Native Sons of the Golden West. Other folks, they talk about the history of their own local communities.
Yeah.
And I think that when you have that honest discussion about these topics and offer that in addition to, you know, that vocational training and that mentoring, you can create well-rounded human beings. And so I think that that's something that we really need to defend and allow people to have a very honest, clear-cut understanding of.
And that kind of gives people a personal cause too.
Yeah.
You know, I could go to college and feel like just a number,
Hey.
but if I feel like I'm a part of something.
Sorry to cut you off. We do have a caller coming in. Let's
there we
dial
go.
him in. Oh, we got to identify who this caller is, so just give us 1 second. All right. You are listening to Whatever Works on KCAA. What's on your mind today?
So as I was listening to the guest, he mentioned some conversations about, you know, the ancestors and having our community, you know, reconnect and connected where they're from, right?
Oh, yes.
So my question to you is, once we have the ability to have our youth and even the adults of our community realize, like, the truth about their history and their ancestors, do you feel like there is still a level of healing of the wounds from all the missed conversations that cause all the upsets that we deal with all the different race issues? Do you think that there would still be some additional conversations on how we reconnect back to our humanity?
All right. Well, first off, I just want to say, I mean, thank you, brother. Thank you, sir, for that question. And I think it's something that really strikes at the core of the experience of not just people of color on this continent, but also, I mean, poor folks of all races as well. And to answer that, I think it's up to us to determine the healing. I think it's up to us to know how much we have healed, because you can be somebody that goes to some corporate seminar, you can be somebody that goes through some class, but if you don't actually have those conversations with your neighbors, if you don't have that conversation, frankly, with your parents and with your relatives, then you're not going to know if the wound is truly healed or if you've just covered it up temporarily, and it's going to go ahead and bleed and ooze again later. And so, I mean, that's how it'll be, because... And I'm about to say something that, I mean, it's a bit of a weird thing for a candidate to say, but the average person out there, when it comes to these issues, will never be a congressperson, will never be a representative, will never be president of the United States, okay? But you do have power over in your own family. You do have that power over in your own decision-making with the people you meet. You have that power with the people you have yet to meet. And you have that power raising your own children. And when you look into their eyes, you can go ahead and create a better world by raising them the correct way, by having these conversations, and then also doing the same with the people around you. And so that's what... Oh, go ahead, sir.
I know. I appreciate that. And my last question to you is, you mentioned earlier also about taking care of this, our children and our next generation and students. Something that I care about, and I wanted to know your perspective or perception on that transition from elementary to middle school and that sense of belonging that we start to deal with as we grow up and looking for our identity. The education doesn't teach that. It doesn't teach us to self-discover. So what do you see that you have a view of that we can help our students start to discover that part of their life as they get older?
Very good question, sir. Thank you. So whether it's the transition from elementary school age to middle school age, or high school age to, say, community college or the military, human beings are trying to find themselves. They're trying to develop that sense of identity. And so when somebody moves on from elementary to middle school, there's that question of, am I still a kid? Am I becoming more like an adult? When I realize that I am becoming an adult, do I like this? Do I do I have those good role models? And so that's where I think the mentoring programs come on down. Because you can go and teach somebody algebra, you can teach them about the relationships between numbers, but what about the relationships between you and other human beings, right?
Yeah.
Especially after these 2.5 years, frankly, where we've been behind these digital screens and not interacting with folks as much. And so that's why I think even at the K through 12 level, we need that mentoring, because you got yourself a loneliness epidemic, you got yourself, frankly, a skin hunger epidemic. I mean, it sounds kind of silly, but you have these surveys done of young people. And a lot of young people, they say, well, I don't have a best friend anymore. I don't have close friends. I have not been hugged by a human being. Seriously, I have not been hugged by a human being in such a long time. And if we want to develop a sense of the self, we also have to develop a sense of who am I in relation to other people as well. And so a mentor, especially if one or more parents is incarcerated or just away for whatever reason, a mentor can go a very long way. And when I was at Sigma Beta Xi Youth and Family Services, you actually had that nonprofit contract, I believe it was with the Moreno Valley Unified School District. So you would provide that. You would provide that. And so you have that mentoring, but even when it can't be that direct, you could still have classes on, if I could go and have my way, you could have classes on things as simple as, home economics, what are my life skills, what are social skills, how do I ask somebody out? How do I make friends?
Yeah.
Because a lot of young folks just aren't learning that stuff anymore, unfortunately. They're just not.
I want to say thank you. I'm definitely interested in what you're up to. And again, with all that information, that's the only way that we can love ourselves and love our neighbors. I appreciate y'all.
All right.
Christian, do you want to let him know where he can get a hold of you?
Yes, absolutely. So you can actually contact me directly and all the brothers and sisters on this call at 909-297-8867. You can give me a call, a text. We could go and meet up for dinner, and we could discuss these issues even more. And it's one of the things that I really love doing, because I'm a policy wonk and got to keep talking about these things.
All right, you guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. We are going to be closing up right now, so stay tuned for next week as we have our guests Trevor and Harrison on our show. Super excited. Christian, thank you for coming on. I appreciate you. Hopefully this benefits everyone here. You guys are listening to Whatever Works on KCAA 1050 AM 106.5. I'm Sam Works.
I'm Kyle Kerrigan.
Christian Thomas Shaughnessy.
And we're out of here. Have a good night, guys. Happy Sunday. Stay blessed.
This is KCAA.
If you plan